Wrangell-St. Elias is the largest national park in America and a perfect introduction to Alaska's stunning national parks. Like many in the state, it is not easy to access at almost a 7-hour drive from Anchorage, with 2 hours of that being on a rough dirt road. However, if you make the effort to visit, you will be rewarded with a place that feels wild and unlike any other park you've been to before, especially if you take the time to get above it on a scenic flight. Alright, let's jump into the 2 days we spent exploring Wrangell-St. Elias National Park, and you can see all the Alaska National Park videos in the description. I'm here with Pops in Alaska, and we're going to spend the next 48 hours exploring Wrangell-St. Elias National Park, starting with the Visitor Center. The first thing you should know is that this park is massive and that the Visitor Center is about 3 hours away from the main part of the park that people explore. So we're right here at the park headquarters, and we're about to go down this 60-mile dirt road to McCarthy and Kennecott, which is in the interior of this massive park. This is the Canada border, and this side is Kluane National Park, which we did a few days ago, so it's cool to be able to see both sides of this massive park. This visitor center has all the things you'd expect, like exhibits on the park, a movie you can watch about it, and of course rangers you can ask any questions to. I highly recommend you ask questions about getting out there in the current road conditions, as it's a long drive. Alright Pops, you ready to drive the McCarthy Road and explore the park?
Yeah, this is going to be amazing. This may turn out one of my top 1 or 2 of national parks.
We'll see. From the visitor center, it's about an hour to drive to Chitna, which is where the gravel road starts, but we had one stop we wanted to make along the way. This is our first stop on the drive. It is Liberty Falls. Liberty Falls Recreation Area has a nice waterfall, and it has some campsites if you're looking for a place to stay. The waterfall's about 20 to 30 feet, and you can't really get that close to it, but it's still beautiful. Alright Pops, here we go. 60-mile dirt road starts now. The McCarthy Road starts by driving through a worn rock canyon that's one way only. This is a perfect introduction to the adventure you're about to have just driving out to get to the national park. The road is actually paved for a few miles, but then it becomes gravel, and that's what it's like the entire rest of the way. I would plan on at least 2 hours for driving this road. It was actually in pretty good condition, but there's so many different potholes and ruts that you can't go very fast. We are officially entering the national park right here at about mile 16. There's not a lot of points of interest to see along the way, but you'll definitely want to stop at the Tusculana Bridge. Built in 1910, the bridge is 525 feet long and 238 feet above the river. That's a one-way bridge, but you can park on either side and you can actually walk out on it if you want to take pictures. We're going to do that on the way back, but we're trying to get to our shuttle, so we're going to continue on right now. When we went, the hotel shuttle was on the hour, so we were hoping to get to the end of the road right in time for our shuttle. We're just about halfway there, and it took us exactly an hour. Again, while some people might do this drive faster, we did see someone who had crashed off the side of the road because they went around a turn too quickly. I'd recommend to plan for 2 hours and just take your time and enjoy the scenery along the way. Also, I'm sure the road condition changes during certain times of the year, but we found it to be in really good condition when we went. Other than watching for potholes, we didn't need four-wheel drive to make it to the end of the road, but of course check road conditions before you go yourself.
Alright, so once you park, you gotta walk across the bridge to catch the shuttle, and the shuttle just arrived, so we had to run in order to get it, but I think we're gonna make it. It only comes once every hour. Our timing could not have been more perfect. There's Pops running to catch up back there.
If you're staying in the town of McCarthy, which is at the end of the road, then you just have to walk across the bridge and enter the town. There's no other way across this river other than the pedestrian bridge. But we were staying about 5 miles or 15 minutes drive away in Kennecott, and you have to take a shuttle as you cannot drive your car up there. It's a super bumpy shuttle as the roads aren't really that well maintained out here. But it was great to learn more about Kennecott by talking to our driver. All right, this is our room in the lodge, 2 beds, and we have a glacier view. The glacier's just underneath all that dirt out there. The Kennecott Lodge is just a cool and unique place to stay in the park. And do note that most all of the rooms utilize communal bathrooms. What do you think about this hotel?
This is incredible, and you're literally across the river from a glacier.
Plus you can do a puzzle, you can read a book, you just take in the view. All right, so first order of business in the park today. It's already later in the day, but we're taking the last tour to go see the mill building. It's gonna be awesome.
While many of the mine buildings in the Kennecott ghost town are open to the public, if you want to see the 14-story mill building, then you have to book a tour. I recommend booking it in advance as there's only a couple tours per day and you want to make sure that you get one if you're going all the way out here. Even without taking a tour though, the things that you can see here and the incredible beauty of this well-preserved mining town is something that's well worth experiencing.
Climbing up to go inside of the old mill building.
If you do this tour, note that it does require you to walk up about 200 feet of elevation and then you have to walk down ladders and stairs inside of the mill building as you're exploring it. When we made it to the top, we learned a lot more about the historic mill building and were ushered in and given hard hats before we could continue our tour.
It's like a glove.
In the early 1900s, copper was found here and was said to be one of the richest concentrations of copper in the world. Multiple mines were set up to find the copper and to extract it, and then a mill was created in order to process it. At the peak of its operation, the railroad ran all the way out here and there was more than 300 people that were working in the mill and the mines. It ran until the 1930s, and over that time it processed over 1 billion pounds of copper.
Told Pops there's gonna be a ladder on the tour.
Climbed worse. This one.
It is a relatively adventurous tour as there's multiple ladders and stairs that you have to navigate between the floors. Plus, the whole building is basically captured in an arrested decay state, which means that it's kept structurally sound, but it isn't really changed. Because of that, many of the floors are uneven, there's lots of wood and things on the ground you have to navigate, but it also feels very adventurous and unique to be able to see the historic mill building in this way. The tour took about an hour and a half, and during that time we stopped at each of the levels and learned how the ore was processed and the copper was extracted. I've been on many different tours like this in the past, but this was definitely one of the better ones. Our guide was extremely knowledgeable and was able to answer any of the questions that were thrown at him. When we made it to the bottom of the mill, he walked us to a few more buildings and showed those to us before ending the tour. The highlight was definitely the powerhouse building. It's incredible to see how massive this was and to think about how big this operation actually was as well.
That's a really great tour, and if you want to go in the mill building, that's basically the only way to do it. We're gonna get something to eat, call it a night, and then tomorrow we have a lot more exploring in the national park.
If you don't want to take the 20-minute shuttle back into McCarthy, which was only running once per hour when we were there, then you have two options for food. First, you have the Meatza Wagon, which is a food truck, and second, you have a nice dining experience at the Kennecott Lodge.
We decided to eat in our hotel, which has backcountry gourmet. They only serve one meal each day and it's at 7 o'clock, so let's go see what it is. Also, it's raining outside.
We were seated on the patio, which had amazing views, and it was cool to just be able to eat this dinner while we were watching the rain come down.
This is too fancy of a meal to be sharing with you. Where's my wife at?
Yeah, I wish you'd rather have her here.
It ended up being a 3-course meal with a salad appetizer, a nice filet mignon for dinner, and then a chocolate torte for dessert. It was so much better than you'd expect to have in a remote hotel 60 miles down a dirt road. After dinner, we're back in the hotel, and this is 10:30 at night right now with how bright it is. We're going to bed and we have a ton of exploring tomorrow. Our hotel had a nice breakfast buffet, which was perfect since there were no other breakfast options around. Starting our day by setting out on the 5.5-mile route glacier hike. We are walking out to hike on a glacier. So the National Park Service opens up all these buildings until about 5:30 each day, so you can come in and look at them. There was a few buildings we didn't get to see the previous day, so we went in them on the way out to our hike. One of my favorite things about all these old buildings is the old pictures. Check out these guys hanging out by the glacier in 1930. Right next to the post office is the general store. They even got the always classic Orphan Boy smoking tobacco. After exploring the general store and the post office, we made our way towards the bridge and the old Kennecott mill building.
How cool is this view? It's one of my favorite in the Kennecott area.
I stopped at this view so many times while we were in the national park, as seeing the old historic buildings with the water running right between them is just a perfect photograph. So this is one of the least visited national parks in the United States, and it's just insane to me that we were walking through this ghost town to go hike on a glacier in the middle of the summer, and there's no one else here with us. Of course, we've seen other people and stuff. It's not like we're alone, but I mean, this is not like what you'd expect to experience in a national park in the summer. All right, we're leaving the ghost town behind and we are setting out on the actual trail. How cool is it to be able to walk through that ghost town as you're going out to a glacier? The hike to the toe of the glacier is about 4.5 miles round trip, and then you can go as far out on the glacier as you would like. Our hike ended up being around 5.5 miles round trip with how much we explored the glacier. We're about 1.5 miles in, 3/4 left to go to get to the toe of the glacier, then you can hike as much as you want. Overall, a little bit rocky, not too much elevation, very approachable hike, some mosquitoes, but you can also get a guide service if you don't want to do it on your own. This trail is stunning the entire way, but once the toe of the Root Glacier comes into view, it gets even better. Here you'll find small waterfalls with little bridges you have to cross, and then incredible views in every direction. I hope these views are coming through as incredible as they are. This trail is blowing my mind right now. Here we go, glacier access that way. Once the trail splits off, it's a downhill single track all the way to the glacier. Now it's way easier to see how this can be a glacier under the dirt. There's something right there, there's a cave down there, another one. So basically this is all ice under the dirt. Look at those people down on the glacier. Wow. As we continued to make our way down, the views got even better and the sheer size of the glacier was awe-inspiring. It's amazing that this water flows directly into an ice cave. By this time, we made it to the base of the glacier and we got our crampons out in order to walk on it. Be sure you bring crampons and hiking poles if you're not doing it with a guide service. Look at Pops, he's making his way up the glacier.
My crampons.
Your $14 crampons from Amazon are working good. See if you make it down though, huh? Pops, did you ever think that you and me were gonna be hiking on a glacier without a guide?
Without a guide, like, yeah. Especially something as massive as this. But we did do it before.
We have hiked on a glacier before, but that was guided. Look at how clear this water is.
And you can see the blue inside there.
Yeah. We were one of only a few groups that were on the glacier this early in the morning, but when we left later in the day, there was a bunch of people that were getting ready to walk on it. I'm really hoping to find a blue pool. I looked one up online and I think I can find it. It's not too far away, but that's my main goal, blue pool and seeing the ice fall. Once we made it up to the top of the first hill and could see the ice fall, this is where my dad decided he was going to turn around as he didn't feel super sure of himself with his knee issues. So we made it up to the top of the first major hill on the glacier, Root Glacier, and then that is the second largest ice fall in the world, the first being Mount Everest right behind us, but this is a pretty incredible experience, right?
This is a very incredible experience. Never would have dreamed I'd be able to do something like this. So beautiful, so unique.
Yeah, and you can just come on in here without a guide if you want to. Definitely have crampons and bring sunglasses. I left mine in the car. But man, you can just explore this beautiful wonderland as much as you want. I continued on as I was trying to find a blue pool. Made it up another hill. There's the ice fall behind me and I see the blue pool that I've been looking for over there. So I'm gonna see if I can make my way down to it. As I made my way over, my dad was able to get this amazing shot of me with the glacier behind me. Wow, look, I found it! Look at how cool that blue is! Oh my gosh. You guys, look at this. Right in the middle of the glacier.
That's gotta be one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It's so deep, so blue, and so clear, plus it's in the middle of this beautiful area. But we got more stuff to do this afternoon, so I'm gonna start heading back.
On the way back, another group had set up an ice climbing rig, and they were actually ice climbing on the glacier as well.
I'm so sad to be saying goodbye to the glacier. That was one of the coolest national park experiences I think I've ever had.
Once we left the glacier and took off our crampons, it was about a 2-mile hike back to Kennecott.
So that's definitely a must-do hike. If you don't feel comfortable, guide service is a great option so you can experience it. If you do, make sure you have crampons, like micro spikes, not like yak tracks, and a hiking pole to keep your balance, and sunglasses, which I didn't have because our reflection's pretty brutal. You don't want to miss this one. I can't get over how cool it is to walk through this ghost town again and again in this park. Plus, it's light till like 11:45, so we're not really in a rush with anything. We're gonna hang out, have some coffee, and maybe go on a flight seeing tour later.
Since there weren't really any other hikes we could do with a short amount of time, we went back to the lodge, grabbed some coffee at the general store, and just hung out on the porch.
We've just been hanging out and relaxing in our awesome lodge for a few hours, but we're getting an early dinner at Meatza Wagon before we do our flight seeing tour.
Supposedly, the Meatza Wagon has actually won some awards, and it has a salmon BLT that multiple people told us we had to try.
Currently, we're eating our wild salmon BLTs with glaciers, a ghost town, and high mountains behind us. It actually looks like Pops is being pretty healthy right now.
Salmon is nice. Nice strong flavor. Yeah, very nice.
So both the food truck and the hotel were great options for food. I spent a little more time exploring the town and actually found a waterfall in the back, which was cool.
Leaving our hotel for our last experience of the day, going on an airplane. How are you feeling about an airplane, Pops?
Huh? It'll be amazing what I'll see.
We decided to book a flight tour on a whim, and a shuttle picked us up and brought us down to the airport.
All right, here we go. No one booked the third seat, so it's just Pops and I, and we are going on a 70-minute tour. It's not clear, but it's not windy and it's not raining. I think it's gonna be awesome. Here's our beauty that's gonna take Pops and I soaring in the sky. He hasn't flown in a little plane for a while, but he is, give him a thumbs up. He's facing his fear. Orin, yep. Here's our plane. Pops will be in the front. I'm gonna be in the back. See, I wanna see Pops try to get in here.
You're gonna be in there, right?
Oh, look at that. Pops has got some leg room in there.
Got
Look
a
at
couple
that.
of big loads in here. That's for sure.
The reason we decided we couldn't leave the national park without taking a flight is that this is actually the largest national park in the United States. Just seeing what we saw from the ground with the hike to the glacier and the old ghost town was incredible, but we figured we really couldn't do the park justice if we didn't see more of it from above. Plus, I had done the flight through Kulani National Park a few days earlier, and I wanted to see how the two compared as they butt right up next to each other. Almost right away, the comparison between the two is hard to make. In Kulani, I spent most of the time flying over an ice field, and here I flew past rugged mountains, over rivers, saw glaciers in the distance, and even waterfalls. Both of them are incredible, but this one was definitely a lot more of a varied scenery than the other one was. One of the things that really surprised me was all the waterfalls. There was one section we flew through with big rock cliffs, and there were so many waterfalls going off of them. As we made our way further back into the park, we were dwarfed by massive snowy peaks on both sides of us. There was some wind in this section, which made for a bumpy ride, one of the bumpiest I did while I was in Alaska, but the views easily made up for it. Plus, they had what I like to call a glacier highway, which basically looks like a road going out into the distance that's just a glacier. The last highlight for us was being able to see the second largest icefall in the world from above. We had seen it earlier from below, but there's nothing really like flying right next to it and understanding how truly massive it really is. We also got to see the town of Kennecott from above and realize how tiny it was in this massive national park.
What'd you think, Pops?
Boy, I can't imagine something much better. Our pilot was incredible, showed us all this different stuff. It seems like, once again, because this park is so huge, you have to see it from the air or you don't get an understanding of how extensive and how amazing it is. So yeah, you gotta do something like one of these flights on Wrangell Mountain.
I definitely agree. These trips can be a little pricey. This one was around $300 a person, but this is the largest park in the United States, and so being able to see it, to see the different varying landscapes like that, definitely gives you a huge appreciation for how beautiful and incredible it is. I mean, we saw 13 glaciers, we saw waterfalls, we saw mountains. It was nuts. We just got dropped off back at our hotel and we were gonna go up, but we saw the light come through. Wow, look at the light on the old mill. It's beautiful.
You guys know how we are. Whenever there's something beautiful to see, it's hard for us to go rest when we can experience it. That was exactly the case for our last few moments in Wrangell-St. Elias National Park. Watching the sunset over the beautiful and historic Kennecott ghost town is just something I'll never forget in a national park I never thought I'd be able to visit.
After we got dropped off, we had to rush over here as it's 9 o'clock right now, but the sun is just going down a little bit and it's lighting up this area so beautifully. One note on the plane, they said we did 100 miles through the park, seeing waterfalls, all sorts of stuff. I don't know, Pops, do you have any comments on this park?
This is an amazing park, but the flight is critical to see all that.
That glacier though, that was pretty strong with that flight this morning.
Yeah, that was.
But that's it for our time in Wrangell-St. Elias National Park. Hopefully you enjoyed exploring with us. Lots more Alaska content coming up. You can see that up here when it's posted. We will see you on the next video.